We talk about some of these results. Enlightening the eyes, converting them. They hear and see. This is in their imagination. You can close up breaches or heal wounds. It's called binding up the brokenhearted. You restore them. They become established. That means they can't be moved. It can't be shaken, especially when you grow them to a place. If you're a day 4 yourself, I'm operating around a day 4 going on to a day 5. I'm still training and learning and growing myself. I find myself in situations applying these things and doing decently well, passing tests, but I'm still correcting myself and moving as I go. So I do all these things too, but I find that I become more established so I can see other people who are established, meaning you can't be shaken, you can't be moved off your foundation. You want to reproduce that in others to where everyone's established, and that's called confirmation of the gospel, or where you're confirmed. And God confirms this word with signs following. He says, in my name they will cast out devils. They will speak with new tongues. They will lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. They shall take up serpents. They shall drink any deadly thing, and it shall not harm them. These are signs that follow those that believe. The ones that are established and confirmed in the gospel. That's when you're sealed. And then as you start, that means you're starting to head into like a day 4. Now you're starting to build up a wall of fire round about you. And you're building this wheel round about you. Remember we talked about our little stick figure and the wheel around them, and the wheel within the wheel within. You can begin to see that on someone, meaning you can see it in all 7 when you're trained in it. It's like the spectrum of a light spectrum, like a rainbow. I hate to say colors and music tones, but it is kind of like that. It's frequency. You can memorize all the elements inside someone's countenance. You can read what kind of frame of mind or state of mind they're in. And this is what we do in the infield. Tell you everything. Basically it's called discovering their foundation. They also have a term they call it lifting up your skirt, or what they call it, lifting up your skirt, discovering your foundation, and I can see your hand. Basically you can know what's on the inside of somebody, and so you can help them. And also, it involves the 7 arts and sciences. There's a art of logic and art of rhetoric. Use those to debate. If you want to know 2 really good people at debating, who are my favorites, are Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson. These 2, for me, are just phenomenal at the art of logic and rhetoric. They can really paint a good story and narrative to show truth, and they can also thread and debate to where you can, like a lawyer, where you can pull up seeds, right, and discover show someone their hand to where they're not deceived themselves. It works by a grid system through a threading process. They do it all the time in counseling and stuff, and that's what this stuff does. So, all right, so now part of those results I have right here. What's that mean, right? It says Nehemiah 13:11. That's an external setup. That's when you place someone in a high place. I'll read Nehemiah right here. Nehemiah 13:11 says, "Then contended I with the rulers." Basically saying, modern English is, "Then I contended with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place." This is what you want to do. This is when Nehemiah had oversight of the chambers, and so he wanted to put people in place and to set up these external positions. That's what this is. You're externally setting up people in the high places, like we talked about the Northwood. So when someone's built up, that's where they go. You want to build up someone so you can put them in a position to carry out the command, like carry out all the things that you want to put someone in that image of where they're solid and established. You want everyone to see what that looks like. Right now they want to put broken women, emasculated men, right now in the high places. It used to be cool, if you were tough, if you were a tough guy. Now it's like toxic masculinity. I remember there's Steven Seagal, Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, these guys were like, they made the culture. They were masculine men, all right? And the women were feminine. You know, they followed the men. They were rescued by the men. Now it's like women are rescued. That would never happen. Like, not saying that women can't be leaders and stuff, but they're lying to women and building them up to this image that that's not real. And same thing, they're lying to men to dumb them down. And there's a whole reason why they're doing that. It weakens their hand, because what's in Hollywood is working with the people that are in the government to try to conquer America. Now people say, well, that's a conspiracy theory. You're about to find out it's not. Like, there's a lot of people going to jail now. Now that the Mueller report came back and all that stuff, it's over with. So we already knew for a long time. By the way, I just want to let you guys know, I'm going to say it on camera. The people in our movement, we're already at the finish line. We're waiting for the rest of America to catch up. We already know what's going on. We've been debriefed on everything. And a lot of people are going online and they're discovering someone named Q Anonymous and Q. We had this stuff before Q, but thank God for Q, because it's helping us feel stable ourselves. Because when you know something and it's not social proof, you have to fight against that. That's hard. That's very hard, especially in a state like California, where it's like there's that age-old saying that maybe your elementary teacher tell you, like, hey, you ever think it's you and not everybody else? Like, and sometimes that you're like, man, is it me? Am I a legend in my own mind? Like, but this doesn't lie to you, you know? And eventually you find people that are woke up and red-pilled to it. And now we're at a place, we've climbed to a place of stability where all the voices have gotten so small out here compared to what we see now on the inside of us. It's coming. Justice is coming. And what's coming is a brand new Hollywood, a brand new California, a redemption where people are going to wake up and be restored and redeemed. They're going to start being stable. They're going to let go of some of these broken ideologies because they don't work. I want to tell you the end from beginning. Feminism leaves women single at the end of their life. I'm going to tell you. And men that are emasculated, it leaves them beat down by the woman, or they get divorced and all their stuff. These guys get suicidal. That's why they go to MGTOW. It happens. Now, there's some people that make it work. Some guys like to be, emasculated, and it works for them. It's kind of weird to me, but they're not happy. I've seen it. I can't stand to be around it. There's nothing valuable about it. And that's just on, one topic. Those are the things that have pushed out of Hollywood. It's a bad image. So those things are going to be removed. So again, those things are going to be removed by a flood. Now, floods work internally and externally. Now, you can do both these things. You can use a flood to withhold, to withstand, to restrain, to bind up, to stand against, fight against in war. What is a flood? You can flood with the arms of a flood, like an army coming in, flooding out your enemy. You can flood with your words. My words are streaming or flooding right now, hopefully piercing your heart and shaking you and waking you up so you can see these things are true. These are true principles. Now, you can withhold the dark from stretching out its hand by drying it up. You dry it up by forgetting it. Forget those dark. Forget feminism. Forget racism. Anti-racism, still racism. Forget it. Move on. Look to the future. There's, oh God, what's her name? She was great. The black woman. What's her name? That's on Facebook everywhere. What's her name? Remember that? God, she was. You remember? There's God. I can't remember. She spoke at CPAC or whatever. Yeah. Candace Owens. She's awesome. Well, thank God for. I hope her voice goes everywhere. Google her. Candace Owens. Awesome black woman. All my black friends, they've been posting her stuff on Facebook. This is where the black race in our nation. This is where they're headed. She's trying to wake them up, and she's smart. She's been trained, and she's a loving, God-fearing woman. awesome person. But look her up. But she's telling people to forget the stuff that's behind. Then it goes away. Right now what they want to do is stir things up and say it's still here. There's still racism, white people this and white people that. And then they go find sellouts, poor sellouts that'll go. And there's people, I've seen so many people sell out to LGBTQ. I've seen people sell out to Black Lives Matter, to feminism, just to get in Hollywood. And you know, it's one thing if you're in LGBTQ. It's another thing if you're not gay and you're putting the gay card on to get a job in Hollywood, and that's everywhere on men and women. I know famous women dancers that shave their head because the lesbians and gays are running Hollywood, and they're not giving out those positions just because, like, oh, I think you're attractive and you're talented and let's put you in it. No, they're doing dirty stuff to get those positions. It's there. I'm in Hollywood. I have seen it. It's been proposed to me, and I've turned it down. So I'm on the outskirts. I'm not on Dancing with the Stars. I'm not doing that stuff. There's an agenda everywhere. There's an agenda in Hollywood, and the more you get in there, the more you can't work around it. So either you got to take the knowledge and understand how it works and build your own thing, or you sell out. And there's a lot of people that decide to get out of there. So it's because the deeper you get, you can't get out. You wish you didn't go that deep. So yeah, you can withhold the westwood from flooding the dark, you know, and you can also send out. That's like sent right here, right? You can also send out that flood. This is flooding. This is the whole flooding process that we talked about. You're built up because of a flood. You know, you're quickened or revived by a flood. You know, it's poured out upon you. God's Spirit works by God's Spirit. The devil's spirit can work that way too. So, and it's called, like I said, overflow. Then you overturn the earth. That means to overthrow it, to overturn, to conquer, to have victory and win. This is when you gain the time. The days become blessed. So, and the last thing is, the one way to withhold from the good guys, like if you can withhold the light too. And they've done that for a long time. Through the art of separation, they did the takeaway. They took away the doctrines. And we're going to get into a video which ones, and we're going to be specific about it. But when we're going to be specific about it, I'm going to kind of connect the chapters of the doctrines or the books in the Bible that were changed. But I have to tell a big picture of the real gospel. Remember, we had the big picture of you died, and if you die, you go to heaven, and if you receive Jesus as Lord, if you didn't, you're going to die, go to hell. And it's just like no one can really be perfect in this life till Jesus comes back, and you know we'll do our best, and it's become a potluck and all this. We talked about that, right? I'm going to give a big picture of what the real one is. It's unbelievable. When I just paint that big, I had to lay all this first, because if I told you guys that first of the real gospel, if I told you, you'd be like, that sounds new age to me. That's weird, right? You're going to just reject it. You're like, that's a fairy tale. That sounds too good to be true. It is too good to be true. That's why it's good news. It's amazing, the real, full gospel. And I'll end on this. It's what Paul said. Paul said, he called it my gospel. If anyone preaches any other gospel but this, let him be accursed. Because they will be. Because you're not going to be built up and stuff. And that's what they've done. They preach other gospels to make sure you're cursed so you can be defeated. And that gets even deeper. It's deeper than just people wanting to be world powers and rule the world. It goes way beyond that. It goes into that story of telling you about Lucifer and God. And then everything will come back full circle. And you can decide then or not if you want to receive that testimony. But so wrapping up on the end, the internal flood is they use seduction, art of separation, left hand art of seduction, right hand art of separation to convert you to that westwood. Right? That's what they want to do. But you can withhold that by all this and these right here. This last thing is the weapons. It said one of the biggest ones is the weapons of warfare is called the sword of the Spirit. The sword is if you notice it here, is the word of God. And what it does is, when the more you get all the stories, correct, it makes a compass of eyes round about you. Where did I put it? It's probably on the other side. Yep, it's on the other side. But it creates, oh man, I had this one more. Okay, I forgot. Nope, we're not going to end there yet. So it creates this compass of eyes, or a wheel round about you, right? Because it makes you hear and see. And so then that's called the light of your countenance. You know, your light of your countenance becomes a weapon. Also, what works like a flood is the wind. So if you notice, your words travel on the wind of your breath. You can actually feel your breath when you talk, because your words actually travel on the breath. And so it's the same thing. The wind can be poured out, and all that. The wind can do all this stuff too. So these are different pictures that paint that, and it's called the manifold wisdom of God, because it's so multifaceted. Those are your weapons. And last thing, forgot about this guy right here. There's so much. So is the external scatter. The external scatter is, we kind of talked about in the last one, but these are a little bit more detail. You got to cut cords with people, you know, both internally and externally. So that's kind of like this defense, where if you cut an internal cord, you're making sure that they can't convert you to a Westwood. That's called internal cords. And we can get into in the future specifics of, like, what does that look like, details. But I have to at least show you the science first. We're building one thing upon another. So then when you cut cords externally, though, it's called cutting off a multitude. You disperse them. And so basically you can make, it's kind of like CNN. So right now, a lot of cords were cut from CNN. They lost like 50% of their viewers. And MSNBC. Why were those cords cut? Because they lied. They know. They've had evidence on this Mueller report and all that stuff. So right now, a lot of the viewers left. Their multitude's been cut off. Well, another way you can do that is, like, take away, funding, the wages, spoil, prey, take away land and wealth. These things also work for any body, but also for an army. But you can, when you take away the money to support something, you can weaken it. Weakens the hand versus strengthen it. And the key, strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter. External scatter, right? And that's called casting down an external mountain. Because remember, we had an internal mountain. You build up the knowledge on inside someone, but you can also tear down their multitude. That's called casting down a mountain. So when you strike the shepherd, that doesn't mean go up to the head of every every body and be like, whoosh. I mean, well, unless you really want to. It's going to be repercussions. But no, use your words for that. All these things strike. You go after the roots of things if you root up something by the head of it, it'll come down. That's why you take over the high places, because this usually has a position of authority behind it. But yeah, then that's how you win. You know what? I might as well do it while we have you, because it's only a little bit. Quickly. We're going to hit